right, Ian, we got voicemails to listen to.
We do.
You can go to anchor.fm/the podcast. Leave us a short one. Like, hey guys, I'm from here, and here's my question. Pat, your hair sucks, whatever. But make it quick. Quicker the better. More likely to get you on the air there. Okay, here is the first one.
Hi guys, this is Jacopo from Italy, and here's my question. So I've worked in an Italian university for years, and every year I saw dozens of new courses like cinema, modern music, and whatnot. So I was wondering, and I'm sure you're the most knowledgeable people to ask, don't you think that also video games, history of video game, or something like that should become a proper academic course? Thanks, and congrats for the podcast.
Jacopo's giving us way too much credit, Paisan.
Too much credit.
Way too much credit with the ones. From my limited knowledge, it has seen an uptick in university and colleges.
I'm glad we paused for that.
I'm glad we did too. But it has. Maybe not that I know, like Harvard's doing it, but we do know people that are involved with this, that it has.
Yeah, no, we've got like our friend Daniel.
Good pal Daniel.
Pal Daniel.
Salt of the earth. Part of Team Sushi.
Good guy.
Hashtag Team Sushi. Yeah, we've seen it. I think give it another 5-10 years, it'll slowly roll out more, because probably before the past 10 years, there probably wasn't anything going on, or very little. So it's like anything else. It takes time to integrate, and yes, we're not a lot of generations removed from people totally growing up with video games. We're like only a couple generations.
Yeah.
So Gen X and millennials was the first ones that, like, okay, I grew up and were playing games when I was 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
So give it time. The same way probably was given time for TV and film studies.
Exactly.
There probably wasn't TV and film classes in the 30s and 40s. It probably took some time to get there.
We will definitely get to the point where it's a very common topic and subject.
Yeah. The next question here.
Hey guys. So in middle school, high school, and college, all the way up until now, I graduate in a couple months, I've taken Japanese class. The only reason I've taken Japanese class is so that I can play Japanese video games without having to struggle through guides translating to English for me.
That's dedication.
So I was wondering, what is the most extreme thing you guys have done in order to play certain video games?
Printing out 100 pages dot matrix printer for Fire Pro 6-man scramble.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, I forgot where I got that printed, but it was a dot matrix printer. It wasn't even like a laser or bubble jet. I remember that.
I think that's honestly probably the craziest for me, as I remember printing
stapling that fucking thing.
Printing this was before there were like websites with pictures, and Google Translate was an easy thing, and you could just hold your phone up to a TV screen. No, I remember printing out a Fire Pro G guide that was literally like 56 pages long. Probably 2/3 of that dedicated to translating all of the move names.
Creator Wrestler?
All the Creator Wrestler stuff.
Well, the move names you didn't need because you had the demo, but you needed like the logic. You needed that shit. Like, turnbuckle move logic, outside the ring logic. You needed that stuff. You couldn't do your wrestler without that, yeah.
And then I guess, other than that, I have a CRT TV in my house that we talked about before. I hook up some of my older systems on it, but that CRT TV I have kept around specifically so I can play the Bust a Groove games, the Bust a Move in Japan games, the rhythm games that they literally playing them on an HD TV is just about impossible. There's no way to do it.
Wow.
It just does not sync up properly. So I do I've lugged a CRT TV to 2 different apartments here just so I can keep playing those.
Most extreme thing we do is every NES marathon, Pat's got to lug everything to set it up, and that's a myriad and puzzle of wires that in past years I've thankfully, Ian thanks me, I keep them away from the setup part because that was always the most stressful part.
It's the worst. And
nowadays I'm more like the last one we did, I was like, remember I did it like last minute because like the other solution didn't work. We tried to use an LCD TV and it was not working.
It's just not going to happen.
So it's like, fuck it, we're going old school. I got to set up within an hour, and it worked. Like, unlike past years where I'm stressing about it,
it was very good.
I said, Ian, I got it done. Like I was in the zone finally. It took 10 years, but I got it done.
I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, Ian.
You're welcome.
We had a moment there.
Pat and Ian. This is Josh from China. Moved here, obviously. I was listening back to an older episode, and you guys were talking about the Warrior 64. The reason they're able to sell them cannibalized so cheap is like if I go on Taobao here, I can get one for 28 kwai, which is 7 kwai is $1. So, and like if I go to a local store, I can get one for like 25. If I go down to Shenzhen, which is next to Hong Kong, they're like 16, 18 kwai. So like they're super cheap. So very easy for them to sell.
Okay, so that
on the Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatever it was.
Okay, so that's a topic from a few months ago. Thanks, Josh. Good luck in China. I'm surprised they had the N64 there because I know they had the remake, or was it the Q one, which was special. I didn't know they had regular N64s in China.
Neither did I, but I mean, over time, I'm sure electronics can go any number of places.
So for $4 each, yes, that makes sense. If that's where they got it from.
That suddenly makes sense.
We were thinking Japan, maybe they're like $10, 15, but $4. That's
you certainly
insane.
couldn't do it in the U.S. That was my point. You definitely couldn't do it in the U.S. I figured it must have been something like that.
No.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
I know that both of you guys have said many times that you guys don't know a lot about the Game Boy Advance's library. There are probably about 1,500 games on the Game Boy Advance.
So many.
A little under 1,400 of them are ports, whether that be remakes or just regular ports.
1,400?
So there's a good chance that you guys probably know a bit more about the Game Boy Advance's library than you realize. With that said, is there any chance for there to be a certain guidebook on the Game Boy, more specifically the Game Boy Advance?
More specifically, no on the Game
Boy Advance.
Because the idea of doing a book with 1,500 games in it makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
To do that, it's tough enough doing one with 800 games with half of that. That takes years, and unless you're just doing a simple description of the games, which I refuse to do because that's not a review book. That's an undertaking I don't think anyone will ever do, not just me. I don't think you'll ever see a proper review book of something that has that many games. That's just ridiculous.
There's
too many.
There's just too much. There's too much shovelware. It wouldn't be fun. That would kill anyone who went through it.
But that would also be a book that would be ridiculously, I mean, again, unless you did like 4 per page.
Yeah.
Which I guess you could, but then you're not giving enough. The reason, not to get into the competitors, my books are the only ones that do an actual full review of every single game. Like actually play through the games and review them properly. Because you know why? It's tough work and it stinks and it takes a lot of time.
It stinks.
And it's infuriating to have to play really bad games in order to review them.
Right.
Anyone can play the good games. Be like, oh yeah, I played through Ocarina of Time. Now play through like Xena, Warrior Princess on the N64, or have someone do it. Now that takes a special type of person to get through that and to do it academically as best they can.
Yeah.
And give them, and not just give up. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. But Game Boy, regular Game Boy, I could see, because that's a smaller library. That's reasonable. I also don't think there's this love for the Game Boy Advance, probably because of what he said. He mentioned
there's a huge love for the Game Boy Advance. People love it, but they don't have a love for the entirety of the library.
Because a lot of those games, like you said, you could get them elsewhere, or they're ports, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they're retreads at that point. But thank you so much for the question there, Nathaniel. Next.
Hey guys, John from Canada. During the Zelda anniversary, some friends and I were remembering that for a good couple of years, if you had a GameCube with the Game Boy player, you could play a version of every single Zelda game released to that point.
Wow.
Do you think that we'll get to that point with any other franchises on the Switch or maybe other consoles? Thank you.
No, I don't think we will.
Too many games now. Those franchises.
Yeah, but you could via the Virtual Console or something like that. I just don't think Nintendo has the fucking interest in it. I don't think they care.
I mean, are they interested in saying, well, we're going to re-release the last 17 Zelda games versus pushing the new stuff on you? I mean, it's all about the money. It's like we want everyone to buy the $60 Breath of the Wild 2. We don't care about you playing a 15-year-old Zelda game to that extent, because that's not how we're making our money.
They couldn't even put the second Mario Galaxy on the 3D All-Stars.
Exactly.
So, no, I don't. I mean, as much as I would like that, no, I don't think we will get to that point. That's something that Microsoft, I think, is the company that is going to be the company that is going to try to make sure that their legacy series are always available to be played in some way, shape, or another on a Microsoft system. Microsoft, I think, is
Game Pass or whatever.
I think Microsoft is going to make sure at all times on any Xbox that is current, you are going to be able to play, for instance, everything that's in the Halo series.
Sure.
Nintendo, I don't think, has any interest in making sure that you can play everything in the Zelda series
on each system, going forward.
Hey, Pat and Ian. This is Nick from Seattle. Just wondering if you guys have ever had a game that you liked the music so much you would just boot it up and go to the sound test and kind of just listen to the music. For me, it would be Sonic 2. It's my fondest memory. Thanks, guys.
I don't know why more games didn't do the sound test. No, most games don't have a sound test. I don't know why more didn't do it. Because they're great little bonuses to have at the time.
There are games that I definitely have played because I was like, you know what, the music would be fun right now. Streets of Rage is a game that I've definitely done that with, especially like the earlier ones in the series. I just fire them up and play. I just can't remember. Not every game. Surprisingly few games have a sound test. Like, I feel like they all should have had them. I feel like
by the 16-bit era, they should have had them. Probably.
I feel like a lot more Sega games did, but I can't say specifically. You know, if there was a game that I booted up specifically.
I remember
sound test
because it was one of the first ones I remember was Street Fighter 2. Had all the music and had all the sounds. That was interesting. Having this all the the punches and stuff. All of those, and like ha ha ha. You win. So I would do that because it was so interesting to hear every individual sound effect on its own. Oh, I'm listening to like 50 different sound effects. This is something interesting. And then like the pause. For some reason, Street Fighter 2 had that. I always thought that was funny. It was like a little beat to it. That was the one I remember at the time doing for that. Right. Next.
Pat, Ian, this is Alex from Wisconsin. Just wondering, have there been any games, classic or modern, that for the life of you just could not figure out why anybody enjoyed? Just you've seen them or played them and said, why would anybody think this is fun? I don't get it. Thanks.
That's tougher. Like I historically do not like Mega Man, but I see why others do. I just don't enjoy it. I'm trying to think of a game that I guess has to be popular that you're like, okay, people like this, and I don't see the reason why. I won't say something like Fortnite. I see why people like Fortnite. I see that. I see why people like Minecraft. I see it. It's for me. I can see it. It's not. It doesn't escape me why people like some of this stuff. I understand it.
I'm far more reasonable than I think I may sometimes come across. People paint me out to be on here. I honestly can't think of any game that is generally loved where I don't get it.
I see why people like the Sonic the Hedgehog games. I don't personally like that type of platform. I see why people like them. It's very tough. You're gonna really have to pin me down if you're like, okay, they're that popular game. You hate everything about it, and it's not made well, and you don't like the genre. Like, I usually don't hate on genres. Yeah. Like, I don't hate on, like, well, I don't enjoy fishing games. I see why other people like fishing games. It may not be for me. I can picture someone not getting into a genre like a wrestling game, something very specific. You almost like you have to enjoy the product in real life in order to get into it. You know what I mean? But I have heard stories where people are like, oh, I never liked wrestling, but then I played an N64
Lots of people that have never had interest in wrestling like those N64 ones.
So, I mean, you're really going to have to really pin me down and be like, well, because there's even some sports where I don't like the sport that much, but I like playing the game. Like, I don't hate bowling, but I never like going bowling. I like bowling games, for example. I like golf games. I can't watch golf on TV, but I love golf games.
Yeah. I golf video games are among my favorite video games, and I have never watched an entire golf match. What do they call
but when I turn it on, sometimes I've gotten into it the past years because I've gotten older, but I'm like, it's kind of tough. That's a tough one.
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Brandon from Wisconsin here.
Another Wisconsin.
I just have a quick question for you.
Wow.
So, we've all watched the CU Podcast movie. We've all been on the CU Podcast cruise. But I want to know, what would a CU Podcast amusement park look like?
Oh, it would just be roller coasters.
You're a big roller coaster guy? I'm not a big roller coaster guy.
I'm a huge roller coaster person. I haven't been on a roller coaster in so long, and it upsets me. But I fucking love roller coasters.
You play Roller Coaster Tycoon and all those? Build your own amusement park?
I don't get into those.
I did it once. It was okay.
My problem is I'm just not... those sim games always sound like a lot of fun to me, like the Tycoon games. And then I get in and realize that I have less than zero design sense.
Oh, okay.
I'm bad at it.
I like that stuff. I like getting into that sort of thing. I think if we ever did an amusement park, I thought Ian would be the person. I guess I'd be the one doing the carny shit. I'd plan all the carny shit, all the games of skill in quotes. I would do those. Skill,
yes.
And I would also make sure we have the food up to go. So okay, Ian.
Yeah, the food would be good. Snacks.
All right, Ian. Then I'll do the food and I'll do the carny games then, because I'm all about the carny games growing up in Seaside Heights, where half that shit was illegal. So I know all about how to steal people's money in carny games.
I want corn dogs with cheese sauce.
I know all about doing the little swirly. Remember the swirly like ring game where the thing moves?
Mm-hmm.
Like impossible to win at those things. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
1 out of 100 people. Or like, oh, you put you got to throw the ball and bounce it off the wall and it falls into the tub. It's like, yeah, you can do that because you're at that angle, carny person, or usually they're teenagers in Seaside Heights, but you can't do that. The only thing that wasn't rigged was like the darts.
Yes.
And the balloons. That was not rigged. Everything else was rigged. The cat thing, throwing those like balls, most of those were rigged. So I'll take care of that. But okay, maybe you can make sure I have enough deep fried pickles and Oreos and stuff and things like that, or ices or whatever else.
Deep fried pickles.
Zeppelis. Not really. Zeppelis is not really a thing. I guess more of an Italian East Coast thing.
Yeah.
Zeppelis. Okay. A few more here. Okay.
Hi, this is Patrick from Keychain Collectors International. I've never heard y'all talk about the original Nintendo Mini Classics. The LCD keychains.
Oh.
They're Game & Watch re-released, some were original. You ever played them? Do you have any other keychains in your collections? Thanks, guys.
So those came out, the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
There was about 4 or 5 of them. Donkey Kong Jr.
Mario got one.
I have a couple of them somewhere.
I had one. So basically, they took the old Game & Watch LCDs, put them in little Game Boy style cases, which was way more relevant at the time, and sold them. And I had a couple of them. I had one that we did not mention, and I can't remember what it was. And then there was, I definitely had the Super Mario Brothers one, because I think the Super Mario Brothers Game & Watch is one of the best Game & Watches out there. I think
one of the last ones.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun.
Was that the last one? Was that after The Legend of Zelda? That was like 88. That was like the
It's not a double screen, but yeah, I don't know.
It's like one of the last hurrahs. Yeah.
But it's a great system. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't even know how to search for them, because it's like, how do you even search for them? Okay, I found they did Junior. Wow, it's a sealed one. I see they did Donkey Kong Junior. I think I have a Donkey Kong one. Did they do a Tetris one? I forget if they did a Tetris one.
I thought there was like a pinball one or something.
Because I don't remember those being sold. I don't know. I guess it would have been, what, Toys R Us?
No, they were sold. I remember. I bought one at KB Toys.
You did?
Yeah. I remember buying one directly from KB Toys.
Oh, then they re-released them as Nintendo Classics. This is a newer one. What's the date on this one? This one's a lot cheaper. Looking for it. Looks like they re-released them after that. 2014, they then re-released them.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm looking at one only $32. I'm like, why is it that cheap? Because it's 2014. It's not. So that's interesting.
That is.
By the way, no, I don't collect. I got this little cute little chickie with a little flight hat on it. So I don't really collect keychains that much. I bought a couple. Vonnie's gifted me a couple, but I like to display them.
Yeah.
Because I put my keys in my pocket. I don't have a purse or a purse. So like this little cute little guy would be a great keychain. I can't put it in my pocket. Be squeezed to death. So sorry about that. It's adorable. Hey there. All right, a couple more here. This is Joel. Joel.
Hey Ian and Pat, Joel here, another real Australian. I know you boys love Techno Bowl, but I was wondering if you've ever played Aussie Rules Footy on the NES by Laserbeam Entertainment. It's probably the first game I ever remember talking. It always used to go, out of bounds, on the full. If Daco is a real Aussie and he played this game, he is pissing himself right now. Sorry if it was a bit long. Thanks.
No, you're a real Aussie, Joel.
I've never played Aussie Rules Footy.
I think I fired up once. I didn't review it for the book. I think Jim did.
I was going to say, it was reviewed for the book, right?
Yeah, we reviewed all PAL games. It's an technically impressive game, if you ever saw it.
Yeah.
Bigger sprites. It's an impressive game.
I generally don't like Beam. I don't feel like Beam made much that was...
No, Laser Beam Entertainment.
Oh, Laser Beam. Okay. So I was going to say Beam was...
Beam Software?
Beam did Gretzky, I think, and it was fucking miserable.
Was it?
Yeah.
No, Laser Beam I think was a different company. It's a fun one. But no one had it here, so we don't have Australian rules football.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting game. It's a combination of like regular football and rugby.
Rugby? That's what I've gathered.
I tried getting into rugby. I just can't get into it. I understand people love it. People can play it here. I just can't.
It's fine.
I need that violence. One more.
I don't
think we're going over here.
Hello, Pat and Ian. My name's Chris, calling from LA. My twin brother's in San Diego. We're dying to see Ian's store, or Luna video games, and meet him hopefully one of these days. But my question is for Pat, and that is, what are your thoughts on Back to the Future video game as being a shooter? I know you're pretty passionate. There's been a divide, whether it's the shooter or not. And I'm curious to see if you can convince me otherwise.
This sounds like
convince me otherwise.
Chris, you became the douchey radio show host having a comedian on trying to lead me into a bit. That's what he just tried to do. Well, I hear you don't think that Back to the Future is a shooter, Pat. Why didn't you tell me about it? Well, oh my God, I have to do another one, Chris.
No, you're not.
This famously comes from. There's no divide. Infamously comes from Joey Rue, our pal, trying to, in his heart of hearts, convince everyone insanely that Back to the Future is in fact a shooter somehow.
I don't think he was really truly trying to convince us of that. I think he was just saying it to piss you off.
No, I think when the first did it, I think he was honestly trying to make that assessment because it's vertically scrolling and you can't get the bowling ball to shoot objects. I astutely pointed out to him, though, that no shooter in the history of the world does not start you off without a weapon to fire, and you can survive in Back to the Future without a weapon. And in shooters, you need a weapon to survive and to get past things. You can't just avoid things your entire existence. So it's not a shooter. That's all I'm going to say. It's an action game. It's an action game. It's not even a sub-genre as a shooter there. It's an interesting... The more I got into Back to the Future, the more I realized this is actually an interesting attempt to make a Back to the Future game. Like, there's something interesting going on here with a bunch of mini games.
Seriously, I think it's really not that bad of a game if you turn the volume all the way down.
Yes, and if you slow down that, it's actually the power of love. They got away with that, which is interesting. I think a couple people pointed out the past years, but it is the power of love.
Yep.
Sped up like 8 times, when ours are 3 times. But no, it's not a shooter. We didn't play at the past marathon.
We didn't.
We usually play that.
Gets pulled out, yeah.
This was a strange last marathon. We didn't play some of our heavy hitters. This past marathon we usually do. It was shorter, though. It was a truncated marathon.
Yeah, it was.
It was only, 15 hours? 16 instead?
Yeah.
But we usually pull that one out and play that. But, one more, are we good?
We're good.